with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this segment of the show is sponsored by the American Shooting Journal. It's the monthly magazine covering the firearms and shooting scene throughout North America. Look for it at a newsstand near you. Next up, speaking of firearms and sights for firearms, we are taking you to Spokane, Washington. That's where we're going to chat with Doug Orlob. He is the inventor of the Occluder sight. Doug, welcome to the show.
And how are you?
Doug, I'm doing great. What exactly is the Occluder sight for pistols?
The Occluder sight is a sight that's designed to block your non-shooting eye. So it's a standard three-point sight like any other sight, except that your non-shooting eye cannot see the points. So it allows you to get a sight picture really fast.
So I know that any firearms instructor is going to teach you when it comes to firing a pistol to keep both of your eyes open. But you have a lot of folks who will do the old squint method, and they'll close that one eye and they'll use the other eye. Sometimes they're even using the wrong eye. What are the problems with keeping one eye closed?
The biggest problem is you don't have balance. Your brain needs all the input it can to maintain balance, and when you close an eye, you lose balance, you lose depth perception, and it's not as comfortable. So with both eyes open, you've got your balance, everything else, and when you can maintain a sight picture, it's definitely an advantage.
And I guess that's the other issue we have here, and why you've come up with this sight, is the fact that some people, when they do have both eyes open, they have a really hard time lining up that sight picture so it's true. So I presume that's why you've invented this device. And why don't you tell our listeners exactly what it looks like compared to a normal front sight, rear sight lineup on a pistol?
That's kind of a fun way. That's really what the whole sight does. When you open both eyes, you can either focus on the front sight post and you only see one and you see two targets, or you can look at your target and you'll see two sets of front sights and two sets of rear sight. And what's unique about my sight, when you open both eyes, you can only see one front sight and two rear sights with your shooting eye. And it'll pretty much go to your dominant eye right off the bat because there's only one choice. And any other sight that's made, you open both eyes and you'll see double sights. And in panic situations where you come up to shoot, this isn't something that is designed to shoot at 200 yards. It's how fast can I come up with a sight picture and how fast can I shoot straight. And when I eliminate two choices down to one, then your brain just gets one message. You have one red dot out there, and that's where it's going to hit.
Doug, I love this theory, and I immediately go back to my days as a police officer out at the range trying to master the Colt 1911 45. And I had that exact issue. I would focus on trying to get that perfect sight picture, and invariably, I would screw up the shot. My instructors would always say front sight, front sight, front sight. So I'd focus on the front sight, and when I did that, it worked well. But you had to, like you said, consciously focus on that front sight. And for me, there was always a delay in doing so. It sounds like the Occluder sight really makes things a lot faster when it comes to target acquisition.
And that is true. It really makes it fast. Matter of fact, comments from the very first people that did an interview, they said it's faster. And I posed them, I said, now what's that mean in a gunfight?
It means a lot, that's for sure. So here's the next question, Doug. Are you the inventor of the Occluder sight? And if so, how did you come up with this?
Well, I am the inventor, and I have, from the time I was 14 years old, I've always wanted to be an inventor and come up with something. And when I retired, I had the time to think clearly about stuff. And I tell young kids all the time, if you're a creative thinker, then keep a notepad next to your bed, because some of our most creative thinking is just as we're falling asleep or as we're waking up. And remember that stuff. And I have probably written out 300 different ideas, but you've got to come up with something that you can actually make yourself. And I just wanted to solve the problem of double vision. And the first time I was holding a rifle and I saw two front sights with both eyes open, and I stuck my thumb up and I blocked the other sight. And I said, well, if I can do that with my thumb, I can do it on purpose on the gun. And virtually I went from front sight and said, hey, that works. And I said, maybe I can do this with the rear sight too. And I pushed it forward, and sure enough, I was able to occlude both front and rear sight.
And that's really what it comes down to, the occluder sight. You're compressing the distance between the front and rear sight. Is that correct?
I do compress the distance. The advantage of that is you get your planes are a little bit closer. Disadvantage is it cuts your sight radius a little, but it only cuts it about 20 millimeters. And when you're eliminating double vision, you virtually come up with a sight and you don't see double. You see single. You see one target and you see one set of sight. It's a huge advantage.
You're listening to America Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Doug Orlob from Spokane, Washington, about his really unique invention for pistols, the Occluder sight, which eliminates the issues of double vision and helps you with faster target acquisition. What kind of pistols will the Occluder sight fit on?
Right now I have a limited selection, and it's primarily because I'm a beginner business, kind of like starting out in your garage, and almost all the Glock. So Glock 17, 21. Then I make them for the Smith & Wesson M&P, the whole M&P series, the Springfield XD, XDS, XDMs, and I will be manufacturing them. I've got 200 on order right now for the 6-hour 320, which is the new military weapon, and I have a lot of requests for that. One reason I don't make them for 1911s is because every company makes a different dovetail. And these are dovetail specific, so in order to mount them, I've got to have all the information on the dovetail. And I can't make one for one gun and then not be able to use it on anything else. So it gets complicated in the mechanics of it.
It sounds like that's my loss as a 1911 shooter, Doug. Either that or you're going to have to switch me over to a Glock or something else so I can try out one of these Occluder sights. Who are using these sights? Are we talking about competitive shooters? Are we talking about casual shooters? Law enforcement? Exactly who are buying your products?
Well, I do have some competitive shooters, but I have some, you get down to the front sight. And people have been training that so much that this is such a new product that when you come out, you go front sight, and you only have one instead of two images. So it kind of conflicts in some of the training. People are buying this. When I go to gun shows, 80%, 90% of the people just go, "You're kidding me." And can't believe that it took this long to come up with this invention. And so I'm real proud of that. And I get that joy of watching people be kind of blown away with the idea and how well it works. And I'm just a beginner, so I'm just getting into the market, and I'm having a blast that any inventor has when people look at something that's your idea and they just go, wow.
So, Doug, last question for you here is where can folks buy the Occluder sight? Because we have a station in Spokane where folks can get it locally, but we've got listeners all the way to Chattanooga, Tennessee, up to Anchorage, Alaska, and down to Needles, California. How can they get one of these sights?
We have a website, occludersight.net, and we have it open for choices. You can use PayPal to order it, and I ship them out as soon as I get them.
All right. So the place to start off with is the website. That's occludersight.net. I'm going to spell that for you, folks. OCCLUDER sight, just like a gun sight, .net. That's Occluder, OCCLUDER sight.net. Doug, we've got to go, but this is a really unique invention, and thanks for sharing it with our listeners on America Outdoors Radio.
Totally my privilege. Thank you very much for your time.